say something stupid, funny, or weird just to start the episode off, and then that's what I'm just going to do. Just I don't know what yet, but...
What, you're just going to slot it in afterwards? That's what she said.
Exactly that. That's how I'll start the episode off, then we'll just go straight into the title thing. Welcome to my tavern. How can I help? Come back to say, hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of A Day in the Tavern. Thank you for coming back after what I'm sure was a diabolical first episode, because it was just and only me. And as you can see, I am joined here by my wonderful housemate, Sam, otherwise known as Spink or Flake Finder, if you actually watch our attempted playing of Dungeons and Dragons on this channel.
It's an experience. Actually, maybe we should just rename the podcast to like the Crit Takers Experience.
I was thinking that. It was definitely one of the names I was like throwing around for ages, but it was just like definitely something I have to take to everyone. But it's just like I don't know. I do like A Day in the Tavern.
Oh yeah,
it's got such a nice ring, and currently there's nothing out there really with that kind of name, so we kind of own that name now.
Hopefully, yeah. Until the lawsuit comes in about that podcast you missed.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure I will. But if I missed it, they must not be they're not as big as they kind of want to be able to claim and make this lawsuit or whatever.
Yeah. No, like it'll be Disney, won't it?
God. Disney, cease and desist.
And burn the house right down.
And we won't get away with it like they did in BoJack Horseman.
No, that's it.
So that's Sam on here, or Spink, as he's more well known by everyone who knows him. Jay said, just kind of uncovering his side of geekiness. That's what I did last week with myself. I just kind of talked about the things I get overly geeky about, and now I'm going to poke and prod at you for a little while. For about an hour or so, and get like,
how long?
I know you've already been like talking for like a few hours today with friends doing your
Twitch
stream with your well, not your Twitch stream, but your friends.
Yeah.
Twitch streaming, which I mean,
Slaying
by all means,
zombies.
plug on here. We support them; they support us. It's a
Scum and Vinily, go check them out. They're pretty good.
You're playing 7 Days to Die, weren't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's good. I haven't played that game in so long, and it's nice to sort of pick it up again and.
I think it's because I remember you telling me about the first one you guys did the other week or so, where you were literally spawned miles away from everything else.
I mean, luckily this time, because we were on the same map, so we were able to pick up where we left off, and we spent most of the time knocking through doors, which turns out to not have anything in it. So it was a worthwhile experience all round.
Zombie apocalypse games for you people. Mm-hmm. They're out there for a reason. They're there to train us.
Yeah, and we kept finding blunderbusses everywhere. Like, you'd think, like in a zombie apocalypse, like people would have, especially it's supposed to be set in like a fictional America, so you'd think there'd be handguns at least in most places, but no, blunderbusses everywhere, homemade blunderbusses. It's like the whole world just went, you know what we need? Blunderbusses.
One of the loudest guns ever to be created. Yes,
yeah.
That's perfect for a zombie apocalypse. When the whole point of it is to be as quiet as you can to not attract the zombies. Yeah. But of course, the funnest games are ones where you have big loads of guns, like what was it, State of Decay, or not State of Decay, Left 4 Dead, the Nazi zombies from the old Call of Duty games, things like that. Yeah, where you just have hordes of zombies and an AK-47. You're like, I hope I don't run out of that ammo.
Well, I did find a schematic for an AK-47, so that means I can make one at some point. But you have to get so much stuff to make guns. And I haven't even been able to make basic guns yet, let alone, Kalashnikov. Happy days.
Even better. So let's get into this properly. We're not like we're trying to avoid the question. I mean, it is kind of slightly about geeky stuff because gaming is a massive geek thing, anyways. So, what would you say started your travel down being a geek nerd into where led you to who you are as one today?
I wouldn't say I'll be able to pinpoint the exact moment, but I mean, it's definitely been a lifelong thing. Because, I mean, ever since I was a kid, I was always playing games anyway, so... I know the first console I had in the house that I can remember was the Mega Drive.
Oh, man, yeah.
So that would have been
back a while.
early 90s, wasn't it? Was it 89 or 99 that came out?
I'm sure someone out there will happily correct us.
I mean, I'm sure... I should know, but... It is my story, but there you go. Yeah, and I think I just pretty much binged Sonic the Hedgehog for at least a year. It's like when you're a kid, you don't get the option of what games to buy. Like now, I've got hundreds of games on my Steam collection, which I've never even played. And yet, as a kid, I had 4 Mega Drive games, and I played them to death, even though they're probably absolute trash. Actually, no, Sonic was on me. That's good.
The original Sonic 2D, freaking Sonic 2, Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic and Tails.
Yeah, Sonic's free. Sonic 3D when that first came out.
The first. Can we talk about how rocky of a start Sonic had when it went to the 3D games?
Yeah.
And then how much now going back to the old 2D ones when they brought the original Sonic back in for some of the old freaking games. It's just like, why did it have such a rocky, shitty start as a 3D game? I know
Sega consoles. That's the correct answer.
That is true. I mean,
Sega switched from cartridge to disc, and that's where they went wrong. They should have stuck with cartridge like Nintendo did. But then they brought out the Dreamcast, which is the first console to have 128-bit graphics. It came out a year before PS2, and it was mind blowing. It's whoa, look how good this is! But because they got it out so quickly, they spent no time developing any games for it. Really, Sonic Adventure was on release. And that was... I mean, I had it. It was great fun. But it was so bad. It was so glitchy. I think, the best thing to come out on the Dreamcast was probably Shenmue. And even then, playing it again recently as, a PC port, it does not hold up.
There's some, classic games. You can go back, to the original Sonic games, the original Mario games... even for me, going back to the first Pokemon games, Red and Blue.
Yeah.
And there. You have, no matter what, no matter how old you are, if you played them when you were a kid, that's your nostalgia right there.
Yeah, it's always a fix, isn't it? You just...
and then you
just need it, man.
Yeah, and then now you got games nowadays with the Unreal Engine 4 thing, and just, the graphics are so good, you don't know when the cinematic's actually over anymore.
That's it. That's usually judged. You can usually tell sometimes how bad the voice acting is. If it's got really bad voice acting, you're probably in game.
Yeah.
That's when all the NPCs come out of the woodworks, trying to sell your cabbages or whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah, the background NPCs that you don't really you don't learn their names. They're not the important figure.
They don't
characters.
have name tags, and they always have they have the same 4 voice actors.
Might start doing that in the D&D, just the same 4 names for the random NPCs that you guys just deal with consistently, in the exact same 4 voices.
Grumpy old man villager 4. Here he is.
Oh, these elves on my porch. So there's a good kind of point actually, because I talked a little bit about where my induction into Dungeons and Dragons came in. Mm-hmm. You were the person who did my proper first session.
Yeah.
With me and my ex-girlfriend at the time, Laura. Just 2 of us, and actually this is something actually good for everyone out there to know. It's literally the whole campaign that you guys are doing is based off
the ending. One session, wasn't it? We only played once.
Yeah, it was only one session. Our characters got the tavern that we pretty much started at the end of the session because we killed the dwarf owner who had lied to us.
It was a closet brony.
Yeah, and I built this whole world based off that one. Well, let's start this whole thing in a tavern of actual retired adventurers, and then it kind of expanded onto this whole massive, complex world I'm still writing. So, what was your first introduction and bringing into the greatest tabletop role-playing game in existence?
Monopoly, yeah. It goes back a bit.
You say that when we actually got you can't see it where the camera's shooting. There's 2 Monopoly games just down there.
I don't think we played Monopoly once since we've been here.
Oh, definitely not.
It's probably a good thing because it would just be arguing. we'd end up not living together at the end of it.
No, I think it'd be worse if we got anyone else from like Crit Takers, and it's just like, okay, yes, someone's going to lose.
I think maybe we should do that as like a. Well, we did a couple of episodes, didn't we, where we kind of did some random gaming because people couldn't be there on the day or something.
But... Yeah, because right behind it where he's sat is like just a smorgasbord of tabletop. You can just see it in the shadow.
It's getting bigger.
I would say it's getting out of hand, but it's really not. It's now part of our thing.
We just need a bigger collection.
And once this whole stupid pandemic lockdown thing's over, we're definitely going to be doing stuff and all sorts with it.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, so we're still kind of slightly avoiding the questions of how you actually got into Dungeons and Dragons.
Well,
can you remember that far back?
It was only university, so 2000 and when did I start using it? 2008, I think I started. So long enough. Over 10 years ago.
Definitely longer than I've been.
Way longer than 10 years ago, which is horrifying. But
I know, I'm gonna love when I have Neil on fucking webcam and saying, "Oh, you got the 3.5 fucking book still."
Yeah, that's it. Well, he was born in the 70s, so he was born during Dungeons and Dragons, But yeah, it was university for me. Like it was just like a collection of, because I was on the animation courses, like what I picked. Because obviously everyone on my course was either a gamer or a nerd in some description.
Of course.
It's only a matter of time before I mixed with the wrong kinds of people, and all of a sudden you're playing Dungeons and Dragons.
That's not a bad thing. I mean, unless you were brought up as that goody Christian kid who got told like things like Dungeons and Dragons and metal music and anything other than what we teach you is devil's work.
Well, weirdly enough, two of the people I played with a couple of times were like full-blown evangelical Christians.
Oh, of course they were.
But that just makes it even stranger because they're just like fully getting into this world with other gods and stuff, and you think, is your brain like firing on all synapses in there at the moment? What's happening?
Definitely not.
Are you trying to question it? They weren't playing paladins either, so.
Oh, clerics?
No. No, actually, to be fair, it was. I can't actually remember. It was one session a long time ago, but yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, because it would have been 4th edition that we were playing, because obviously, it might have been 3.5 actually. Can I hear singing?
Yeah, I think I can hear our neighbors that side calling for the cats, I reckon, or something.
Oh, I was like, somebody's singing.
Beauty of doing this in our own home.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but it was, we started, there's a house just round the corner from mine, where I lived in Swansea. There was just like this little, where you had like the uni was in sort of like top of the hill, and then there was like just over the road, there was like a couple of streets where a lot of the students, they put a lot of the student housing, which weirdly enough also made a documentary after I left about the ongoing smack problem in Swansea. And they filmed this guy who literally lived next door to me.
Of course they did.
So yeah, that was fun. It was a nice place. But yeah, it was kind of strange. Like you just wander out. You can wander out at your back door, and it's like a little alleyway, and there's all these other people's like gardens and stuff, and you can always spot where all the nerds were because they just have all the bloody Marvel posters up through the flags and all this stuff. Just sort of looking around there.
Can you remember what your first character you created was then? Or is that too much of a stretch?
Yeah, because I'm trying to think character names are going to be long gone.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to worry too much about character names if you can't remember it. Can you remember like race, class? And I don't know much about 3.5 to my shame. I'm sure some old school D&D players will have a go at me about it.
Well, I only played like a handful of times. Like it was kind of like I dipped in here and there. It's kind of what I've been doing online recently. But yeah, I didn't play extensively, but it was like enough to kind of
get a feel for it.
Get a feel for it and keep an eye on it. But yeah, it was mostly either magic based, whether it's a sorcerer or wizard. Because that's all I was interested in. It was just like, want to blow shit up.
Oh, you're the guy who played the wizard and you don't care how big the room is, you cast fire.
No, what's it? And the guy who was DMing for us, he because before 5 came back again, spell slots weren't in, so it was like the magic was done was only like completely differently. So you didn't. It was so heavily based on you need this. If you want to make this spell, you've got to have this. You got to have this. You got to have this. And it was just like.
Oh, so like proper by the book. I'm playing a wizard, and I'm going to be remembering every component.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. Like I just want to shoot shit,
You saying that now makes me think about like some of the things you've actually done as Flake Finder in the game.
Yeah, the sole purpose is just to ruin the game, but in a nice way. Like I don't want to. I love derailing what's going on, but not in a way that like.
Detracts from the story,
everything. Yeah, fucks anyone else up or any of the players. It's just a way to just make something funny happen.
It was like funny. I remember you brought him in as a mountain circle the land druid.
Yeah. Now
you're crossing over into cleric as a nature cleric.
Yeah, I mean it's all kind of fitting together.
It's all fitting together. But just remember, like coming in and anyone you can go back. I mean, we're not going to have pictures of like what our battle scenes were at that point because we didn't have like enough cameras in this. Now that you can actually see like our early first episode, it was literally just a bunch of pictures because we did. Then the next one we had one camera, then eventually got 2 and 3 and.
So building work in progress, and it still is.
And I think like you could like zoom in on the first picture we got of you, and it's you holding up the cat model, which I think is up there somewhere.
Yeah,
and it's just this like I can't remember where you said you got this, but we just found
it. Sammy brought it back to me from Japan. It came from a gotcha pun machine.
And it's just this like creepy orange ginger cat, full-on ginger cat standing in a very like lurched pose. And the first time I pulled that out is that when you said, "Oh, I'm going to use my wild shape into a giant cat," pulled it out, and everybody was just like, "What the fuck is that?" I think I remember when Ant was still playing. It was like that gives me nightmares. That doesn't.
Such a. I mean, it's the only game in the world where I could use that figure to play as a character in game. So
it was even brilliant because I think like the session we had before we started like filming it and putting it up on YouTube, your character slept in that form, and I think I described it. And you said like, "Oh, you're cleaning yourself as everyone wakes up." So I said, "You all see Flake, a mushroom-covered ginger cat licking his balls." I think that's one of the best things about like D&D is how exactly imaginative and creative it can be.
Or horrifying.
Exactly. you talk about horrifying. The first session you did with me, I killed a goblin on a toilet by breathing lightning onto it, then throwing a fireball into his face, and then told everyone else not to go in there as the goblin slowly melted back into the toilet.
Yeah. Self-cleaning prophecy, that one, wasn't it? It flushed itself.
Okay, what would you say is like your most memorable deathbed come like years from now kind of thing? The most memorable D&D experience, as a DM, you've had?
Oh, that's a lot. That's a big question. I mean, there's definitely some proper top tier moments. I think one of the funniest ones. And also kind of brutal as well. There's a session I was running fairly recently, some of my mates here. And this is their second or third session in. And they just got back from clearing out this kind of tree dungeon. It's like a big tree, very Geeky tree, Zelda type situation.
Yeah.
And they were trying to, help the village that had been turned to stone by killing the disease that was in the tree. And they got out, and all the villagers... the party members was a halfling, it was an elf. Yeah, it was a halfling and a dwarf, and the village were short racists. They had no idea because the entire village was frozen. So the first thing they'd done, because the village was frozen, the elf was like sort of playing a sort of neutral, good sort of character, wasn't So she was trying to do the good thing and like. Not messing around too much, just playing the game and trying to help the people. And the other two guys were just like, fuck this, everyone's frozen in stone. Let's just loot the place. And they did shit, and like they broke into a shop, and they like took a shit in an umbrella stand. All this kind of generic stuff. They did all this on the way into the village, and then they learnt about the tree. They cleared the dungeon, defeated the boss, got back to the village to find that the whole place was. Free and lively again, but they weren't like frozen in stone as such. They still had complete conscience and knew exactly what was going on. They just couldn't move. So they'd witnessed these two short people go terrorize their village, steal all their stuff, and they've just come back from saving them. And they found out later on again that they absolutely have a disdain for short races because of something that happened in the past. So not only had it just like verified their opinions of these short people, and it was an elf village as well. So the other character in their party was an elf. So they welcomed her as a hero, and the other two were clapped in chains and dragged to the local prison.
Quick end to a campaign, or was it a breakout moment? And...
No, there was thing is, I planned like a prison break, but as you know what D&D is like, things don't quite go as planned.
Oh yeah.
One of another NPC which was this sort of like, I don't know why I made it up, it's just like a deranged squirrel, essentially, that kind of pops in and out every now and then for a bit of help. Had sort of teamed up with the elf to kind of make some kind of...
I'm seeing like the dungeon master from the old animated Dungeons and Dragons TV show, but as a squirrel now.
Yeah. Just
the red robes, the bald cap.
Yeah, it's somewhere between... In my head, it was somewhere between... It's a squirrel from Ice Age mixed with Gur from Invader Zim. So it was just kind of incredibly erratic, running around, a little bit kind of... Just wants like, give me some nuts, man. Just like... And he would just... Yeah, anyway, those two teamed up to try and spring them from prison. So I'd planned like I said, you lay things around for them to pick up. They completely missed all the context clues.
Of course.
So instead, I don't know how they came up with this plan, but because the elf was doing her own thing outside the prison, and those two were in prison, so they couldn't communicate with each other to make a plan. So she formed a plan to frame the looting and stuff on... Oh, sorry, I've missed a bit out when I say sorry. They put, when they were looting the village, they put pillowcases over their heads so they couldn't see who they were, because they just thought, playing it safe, they put pillowcases with the eyes cut out, did all that stuff. And what they did is they took one of those pillowcases and put it in a locker of someone in the village, but it wasn't just someone, it was a kid's school. So they hid this thing in the school, and then they... the elf person went and found like the local sheriff or whoever it was in the game in charge of the village that it wasn't their friends, it was these kids. And they said, "Well, have you got proof?" And they said, "Yes, we have." And they led them to this locker, and they find the stuff that was stolen, the hood, in this kid's locker. They were just like, this goes well. But basically, I'd set up the prison scenario because I thought they did first time round. Thing, you've got to give them some kind of level of, the stuff you do does have consequences, even though it's just a game. Stuff you do will affect how you play the game later on. But in the end, I got shafted because I couldn't do anything about it because they rolled really well, and I had to let their plan happen. Yep. So instead, these poor little kids just got executed by the angry villagers, while they get to walk out of prison completely guilt-free.
Yep,
that was a fun day.
I think at some point, every party eventually delves into the murder hobo side of life as a D&D group.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw earlier today on Facebook that I think it was either live action or a new D&D show was being planned, and it's being done and being written by one of the writers who wrote the John Wick films.
Oh, really?
So I shared it on on Facebook. And my tagline is, "This is going to delve into a murder hobo syndrome so quickly."
Yeah, I'd never heard of that.
I only just saw it earlier today on Facebook myself, and I had a little read about it, and I was like, oh, one of the writers of John Wick. Oh, murder hobos? It's going to be murder hobos. Which actually now, I think somewhere on Reddit or somewhere, someone has actually created a proper murder hobo class, which I'm thinking like, this is brilliant. That's just...
Yeah.
Gotta love what Dungeons & Dragons has done for, people's creativity on that front. It's like, everyone eventually devolves into murder hobos. There's the old saying of, give any NPC a HP, and your players will try to kill it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's definitely a pinnacle moment. That's a good lesson to learn. That's where I pretty much learn as a DM is just don't plan. Just don't plan. Just have... Weirdly enough, because there's a guy on my Facebook, a mate of mine up north, he was looking to start DMing as well, and he put a Facebook post about it. And he was asking people for any advice, and I said, don't overthink it. That's where the wheels will come off. I told him make a start point for your session. Don't plan a middle bit at all, because they will never do what you want them to do. They won't go to the places you've set them out to go. So, better thing to do is to just plan a start point, because you know where the session ends from last time. to plan a situation around that very first starting point. You know, whether it's someone coming to the tavern who they can interact with, or you know, wherever the last session was, something happens, a place they can only go to one place from that one situation, and hopefully they can lead it on bit by bit. But if you plan a start point without any idea of what the players might do, and then plan a second bit, and then a third bit, and then like a finale, you'll never make it. You'll get not even half of the way there.
Oh yeah,
You've just got to plan the base. Just plan the basics.
Like, very few times have I like planned a whole sessions out with you guys, and few times have you followed like that down to the exact T.
Yeah.
You got exactly where, like, perfect. This is where right when it ended the session on.
Yeah.
I mean, very early on when I first started this whole campaign, it was like everyone was new. It was Tilly, Kara, Hannah, Ant, and Alex who like joined us for a few games here. He like started my campaign as well. But I mean, them four, they were all still like utterly new to what Dungeons and Dragons is. So I was quite lucky. They were all following like everything I got set out for them, and it's like, like here's this maze, and here's how you get through the maze, and
it's like It's like puppy training, isn't it? Almost.
It was, and something now I think Tilly has learned rather well. I think now is not to plan, because the one shot he did for Christmas the other year, it's just like
fucked it up royally, didn't we?
It's like he told me only a slight bit about what was going to happen into it, and I'm just like, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Ruin everything for it, come in with an OP Dragonborn monk barbarian, and just basically I ripped off like Goku. I think that was like obvious.
Yeah.
For the moment, golden dragon, half monk, going to bloodthirsty flying rage.
That was funny.
Which is brilliant. Which then
that's top tip number 2. Don't reveal your secrets. Keep a lid on it. Don't tell everyone what you're planning.
Yeah, exactly. I think that goes well for like players as well. You can't tell the DM a lot about what you're going to do with your character.
No, you need to keep it. Like, it depends. Like, if it's something to do with world building, like, you can't just invent cities and places and...
Yeah.
You know, you can even go as far as say you can't really invent who your family is, all these stuff, because that's kind of world building not up to you at that point. You know, you get to have a little bit of play when you first make the character, especially with a brand new campaign as well. Like, you know, I'm sure the DM will be helpful, you know, nice enough to say, oh yeah, you know, this is my person, this is the town he's from. And they'd have plenty of time to write a town into this kind of thing, but you don't want to do it halfway through.
Like, say making up a human character starting as a ranger, dumbly delve that ranger into a warlock, not knowing how to play a warlock, and then go, oh yeah, my warlock's the daughter of this like human empire, and it's like there's never been a human empire on this world. I stated that several times.
Yeah, you've got to. Yeah.
Which I mean, I'm not been asked about it, but something I always want to get off my chest about it was I created that because I hate the fact that every other fantasy trope, humans are a very well-known race. They're everywhere, and I don't like that. The point of fantasy is to escape the idea of what humans are, and so it's like humans don't. They exist on the world, but they were treated as slaves and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And this is why most humans are pirates, because they are against slavery.
Yeah. And humans, especially in D&D, are just like average of everything. Like that's what their specialty is. Their specialty is they do everything averagely. Like that's all they can do. They got like a +2 to everything, but that's it. They can't get better than that. Like so, they're great for beginner players, I suppose, because they don't have to think too much about...
So what would you say... Okay, this would be like a new question I can get like on people who play D&D. What would you say is the most beginner-friendly race and class? So you already said like humans.
Yeah, human fighter is pretty much the most basic I reckon you can get. You don't have to worry about managing spell slots. It's not like a monk where you have key points or anything.
And the thing is,
you basically just have attack, and you do attack very good.
And you can actually do kind of spell slots because you can dip into the Eldritch Knight.
Yeah, but again,
like something new.
That's still moving past the basics. Like you can still play without necessarily picking those, spell casting side parts or anything. You can just keep focusing on it. And
if you're playing like if you're not for some weird reason using D&D Beyond, like everyone is probably now because.
You need to at this point. Like it's
and you're still using paper.
Obviously, you don't need to, but it's very.
You're still using paper. It's like so much easier because if you have like sheets and sheets of what spells you have, what the spell does, you're not opening the player handbook every 2 seconds.
That's every game I've ever played until literally the last 6 months or so.
Yeah,
and I'd lose so many notes all the time. Like the sessions I was playing a couple of years ago, where I was playing was it a drow rogue called Steve? It was his real name, but I didn't tell everyone what my real name was. So, And then because the campaign kind of dissolved before it got to that point, no one ever found out either. No one's gonna know. But the point is, a little bit of mystery. It's all good.
That's always good. That's always good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And those, I've forgotten what I was talking about. I sidetracked myself.
Well, this might be a good point, maybe to kind of switch and maybe talk about what were some of the other things that you're like massively geeky or nerd out about, like when like a new game of this kind of stuff. I know you're like massively into Zelda.
Yeah, and Zelda, any kind of like dungeon crawler. Not this is. I mean, Zelda clones anything that's kind of plays like a Zelda. I usually like, but the last 10 years has pretty much solely been taken up by like survival crafting games as well. It's just like there's just such good time sinks.
Minecraft person over here.
Yeah, Minecraft was like massive. I mean, I haven't played it anywhere near as much in the last few years, but yeah, any game that's kind of followed that formula of just like random world, you get, there's no particular goal to do other than just progress and find new things and explore. And there's sort of games that, because there isn't like this 20-hour cap on the story, you don't have to sit there and dedicate any particular time. You can just pick it up and go. You could spend 10 hours if you wanted to building something completely pointless.
Like say maybe a giant dick in Ash.
Exactly. It wasn't just a dick, it was a dick farm. I made loads of them.
But beginning of the first lockdown last year, about early April, I think, me, Spink, and a good friend of ours, Zach, started playing this game, Ash, which I kind of got a little bit too addicted to for a while. I think I non-stop played it for like 2-3 weeks on end. And we played this game for a good few hours. Me and Zach go off exploring, trying to find new things.
Leaving me up to my own devices.
We get back to our little space station base thing, and there's just like several tiny white rock dicks, and then a giant one that he was on top of.
Yeah, and I used this word correctly. I wanted to erect some monuments. And that I did. Very much so.
And then I got bored afterwards and made a giant ramp.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Giant ramp, and you looked at me like, where's Nathan? Woo! I slide through. Guys, and I just slid down the hole you made all the way down to the core of this planet, and then realized, I gotta walk it all up. And he made it literally like that steep.
Oh, yeah, because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. Because that was like the first time I ever played that game. And I didn't realise, I know you had like that tool which can like flatten and make like the terrain like flatten at an angle, but I didn't realise that you could lock it in place, so I was basically just doing it in a certain bit, but then when I got to another corner, like the angle would change drastically, and I didn't really know how to fix it, so in the end I was just essentially just a vertical drop almost to the middle of the planet at one point.
Which is hilarious when you got like these big rocks you have to carry up for research.
I mean, don't get me wrong,
you're just like walking so slowly. You're like, I'm going to be here for 15 minutes trying to just get up this bit.
Yeah, but you got down in 10 seconds, and that's the important part.
That would have been great if we had acted like all the alien artifacts so we could just teleport back to the surface. But we couldn't at the time because we had no idea how to do that yet.
I didn't even know there were alien artifacts at this point. I was too busy literally making a slide to the middle of the earth because that's what I wanted to do. That's why I play those games so much.
It's a crazy zone.
The amount of things I've made over the years just because, like, for no other reason. Like we've been playing Grounded is what I've been doing on my YouTube channel recently, and on it was either session 2 or 3. There's a guy called Trill. He's a Finnish guy who plays with us. He couldn't make the session, so rather than just thinking, well, we'll stop and postpone, let's just play and do something. And then Zach, the other guy we play with, he was like, well, we should do something because he's not here. Let's fuck with him. Let's fuck with Trill.
Yes, that's right. It was the fucking
that's
Matt
a good
thing,
idea. No, in the end, we made this. Again, it's monuments. There's always monuments. We made this huge tower filled with gnats, which are like you can make stuffed gnats, which are like like tiny little bugs, but in this game they're
huge,
about the size of like a pug. So imagine some stuffed pugs like hanging up in a little booth.
Oh yeah, don't get me started on the spiders on that game. The game's not fully finished yet. I'm not as arachnophobic as I used to be when I was a kid. When I played that game with you guys the other day, we walked into that research station thing.
Oh yeah,
talked to that guy, the pedo bot. You guys caught him, and there's this wolf spider in there, and I just like, oh, what's this? Oh, what? And I just wanted, nope.
Yeah, there was no reason. I mean, a spider wasn't supposed to be in there. He glitched in there somehow. So that was pretty good.
which is just like someone who doesn't like spiders in general. I can deal with them. It's like, okay, they're in the corner of the room, fine, no worries. He's not hurting me. I'm not hurting it.
You can still see it. He's there. He's out of the way.
In a game when I actually have to kill it because it's going to
and
kill
they're bigger
me.
than you. And you're prey.
I play World of Warcraft. I'm used to literally fighting giant fucking spiders in that game, and that's alright because I can zoom away from the character and it's not as big, even though my character's like that and the spider's like that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, the spider doesn't look too big, and I'm playing on my big 40-inch TV, and I'm sat on the other side of the room. It's okay, just stand at a distance and throw lightning bolts at it. Fine. I have magic in that game. I can do it. In the Grounded, I didn't have magic. I think at the time, like, really just some of the basic gear because that's all you guys had left at the time for me to pick up, and I was just like trying to beat the back end of the spider with a fucking club or a fucking makeshift crab pickaxe or something. And I was just like, I'm glad this isn't a virtual simulator. I'd be freaking the shit out even more than I was.
Imagine VR in that game. That'd be amazing.
Oh, no, it wouldn't. It really wouldn't.
I want that.
I mean, considering the fact that several times I was alone in the base just trying to, like, figure out what to do and how the controls work, every time I looked over the edge, there were, like, 3 or 4 of those fucking spinner spiders.
Oh, yeah.
Just hauling around. And it's like, and they have that extra sense of, oh, they know you're near. They know you're, like, right there.
They make that noise, don't they? And the eyes
but
go red.
Because the game is done so they can't crawl up walls, thank fuck.
Yeah, which is always, I thought it was a little bit weird, but I'm assuming it's probably just an animation issue more than anything, because it's probably just be really hard to make a spider go from the ground to suddenly be able to walk up a wall and make it look realistic, like easily.
Yeah, so I'm so glad about that because they're like, okay, well, and I mean,
I'm up here, they're down here.
There. They can't hurt me, and I can just throw rocks I've randomly found at it.
Is that what you were doing?
That's what I was doing.
That's what you could fight, yeah.
Because I was just like, yeah, okay, nope, it's far enough. And bear in mind, I could barely aim in this freaking game anyways with that. I mean, I didn't have like a bow arrow thing you can get in it to actually do anything. No. Just throwing random rocks. It's probably why that fucking, when you were playing the other day trying to like make the base bigger, but that spider was just outside the fucking front door. Like, I can't get into the base. I go, why? There's a spider outside of it. Fuck.
Yeah. It was literally parked right outside the front door. That's good though. See, that's what makes games like that good, is because you kind of make your own adventure, you know?
Yeah, that's why I think I got
I love
into Astroneum as well, because it was just that case of, and I like 5 or 6 saves on the game now, and it's just me like going out, we're starting a new save because I didn't play it for like a month, come back and I get back to the old save and like, okay, I actually can't remember how far I got. Fuck, I'm just gonna start a new game because I know what to do. Get to a certain point and you just set off easy then. But...
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you did kind of get thrown in the deep end on that one. But it also made for good content, so...
Exactly. So whenever we actually get back to doing that again, because
hopefully next
I'm not working at the minute until probably at least March at this point.
That's it, yeah. Neither of us will work. Well, I mean, I'd love to say that I wasn't working too, but fortunately, it's non-stop for me.
That's why we're having to do this on a Sunday.
Sunday evening straight from a stream. I'm just like... That's fine. It's fine. That's it. If I don't film my weekends with stuff, I just hate myself for the rest of the week. So, because I go all the week, I just work, and then in the evenings, I'm just like, I might play a game for a little bit. I have to make dinner. By the time it's like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and I usually have to be sort of asleep by 10 latest to get up in time. And I'm just like, I can't cram all the creative stuff I want to do into that time very easily. I can get a little bit done, but I just save it all for the weekend and then have like a big creative blowout. And then I'm fine again.
I'm going to look at you in a certain way to wonder why. That's probably going to blame that the reason why I've not got my logos for this show yet.
Well, yeah. I've got a list of things to do first. So.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to kind of go through it as slowly as
you can't force yourself to make stuff creatively. Like, you have to be in the right mindset to do it.
Yeah, especially when the sense of what original is doesn't really exist anymore. So you're just copying, pasting, changing it enough to make it your own.
Well, yeah, that's it. So I don't want to fall into that, bracket of just like, what is it you want, and then it's just like I want a copy of this but slightly differently. It's like, well, I would rather just like try and make something from the ground upwards, but you kind of got to also take so much inspiration from everywhere else that it starts becoming difficult because it's almost impossible to come up with a new style. Like, a new style is always a development from someone else's work. Everything, like every single piece of art is just a copy from something else. Just a copy from someone else. I mean, It's almost painful, isn't it, at times?
It is, and it's annoying because then you keep looking at your work and like, everyone's gonna know I just copy and paste this kind of thing, and then it's quite nice, kind of getting valid kind of sense because you do put it out there and people say, oh no, I mean we can see where it was, but it still sounds different enough or looks different enough.
Yeah,
And
I never strictly copy and paste anything. I usually make everything from scratch, but it's like you have like an idea in your head of what you want something to look like, and usually what that thing wants to look like is fake. Not even like copying, just like it has to fit a style.
Yeah,
and especially if you're working for other people as well. Like you get like two set. Okay, I guess everyone's different, but when you're working with like clients, especially if you're doing design work, there's two types of people. There's the people who know exactly what they want down to a T. They just don't possess the ability to make it. Or there's the people who think your job as a designer is to spend 30 hours doing research and figuring out every little bit, and then you send them 10 rough ideas and they don't like any of them because there's nothing like what they thought about, but they can't figure out what it is they want because they don't actually know. Those people take you ages, and then when they get shocked at how much you charge them at the end because you've spent 10 hours just on doing rough drafts, and they're like, well, I only wanted a logo, this is too much money, I don't want to pay you. You're like, well, how much would you go to work for 10 hours and only want to pay 30 quid? No, you definitely would not.
No, it doesn't work like that.
It's a little bit frustrating, of course. But I mean, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but like, I mean, any designer like has to deal with that kind of stuff.
Well, that's kind of the way it is in like the art creative world, isn't it? It's like same under the musicians' work, is same under like writers' work and things like that as well. It's like you're putting all these hours in, you're not. I mean, I think it's kind of hard to say who gets like the most shafted out of that kind of thing. You can get like designers and musicians probably get clumped in the same way. Just like musicians, you'll put literally hundreds and hundreds of hours of learning an instrument, writing songs, and then, here's great exposure for you, and you're just like,
exposure doesn't pay my bills.
Yeah, I what?
Yeah, exposure. Yeah, is the.
I guess it's kind of the same like design world sometimes as well, isn't it? When you get like some people
almost entirely, like especially when you start out as well. Like most people will think, I would charge a lot less when I was like, I mean, you're talking years and years ago. Like I didn't even charge some people just because like I was so inexperienced, and I'm thinking, well, they're not going to pay for this if I charge them, so I'll just do it for free. And it looks good for my portfolio because I'm building up this backlog of work. But really, all you're doing is just like devaluing yourself. Because if you don't like your own work or don't think your work is good enough, you shouldn't really be making it for other people. Like you should be really focusing on getting what you want to do done and developing a style that's yours without like, just being like you were saying, like a copy and paste type person, which is a good way to do some work because a lot of people do just want a specific thing. Like they want like you'll notice it, like a good example like is every trendy hipster bar at the moment all has that same kind of aesthetic about it. It's very like rustic but fresh, everything's made of copper, and they all have the same sign on the door, they all got a fancy name, they all have the same kind of logo, same kind of font, same kind of colour scheme.
Yep.
And they've hired someone to design that, and they've wanted this style with this font, blah blah blah. That's an easy job for a designer because you don't have to think about it too much. You just have to know the skill set to do it. Whereas, if you've been asked to do something completely from scratch and they've said nothing, it's kind of good in the sense that you get to flex your brain a bit, you get to work on it, you get to think about what you want to do. But then you also run the risk of them just spending time and time again. Oh, I don't like it. Can we change this? Can we change that? What about this colour? What about this? Can we put this in there? Can we try this? Can we try this? We're just like...
You couldn't like
and
say,
then
they couldn't
you get
say that from the start, could they?
No, but they can't say it from the start because they don't know what they want. It's kind of they don't know.
Crapshoot, yeah.
Yeah. Like, someone comes to you, oh, can you draw me... Like, especially when it works, bands are usually some of the worst culprits, to say the least. Because they're like, oh, I want an album cover. It's like, I want something... They'll say like, oh, I want something like... If it's metal bands, it's like, oh, I want something brutal and evil looking. And that'll be it. Like brutal and evil looking is their go-to, and you can come up with some ideas, and they'll be like, "Oh no, I don't like that. Don't like that. Don't like that." Well, that's 10 hours of my life wasted.
Just wouldn't it be just similar? Just get a bunch of like tree sticks and just throw them on the ground, and then Take a photo of that. There's your band logo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh no, that only works for like black and doom metal bands nowadays.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So bloody slam bands are the worst. They have just like they're like just well yeah, but they're purposefully unreadable. That's like it's kind of a joke, isn't it, at this point?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. It gets a bit mad trying to keep up because especially with me, like my nerdiness is very very much like in tune with like my creative side because everything I do is kind of like my style, which I work for myself. But again, is very retro based, and so I do a lot of pixel art things. That's just how I like to work. It's kind of what keeps me going in terms like of what I make, especially when it comes to like on my YouTube channel, all of my borders and things I've made, like the ones we did for the Crit Takers channel, is all kind of pixel art stuff.
Yeah, which is absolutely
and then
brilliant.
and then you make. I also made like a chiptune theme song for the end of it as well, just because I wanted that kind of 80s, 90s, bringing it back to the Mega Drive,
Yeah, but all comes complete circle now.
Yeah, but that's what works for me. It keeps it's what makes me feel interested.
It's kind of a lot of the era, because I'm born 1990 myself, so it was like the late 90s eras when I grew up. So I was like one of the first. I remember being like the first generation to discover like the original Pokemon games, the 8-bit. Well, not the 8-bit, but like the retro.
It was 8-bit. The first Pokemon was 8-bit because it was black and white on the Game Boy, wasn't it?
Yeah, Game Boy. But I didn't play it on the Game Boy. I had the first one I got was Pokemon Blue on the Game Boy Color. Ah,
right, yeah, because I had it on the Game Boy. I guess it was to come out about the same time, wasn't it? Or was it a little bit after? Game Boy Color was out.
90s.
I don't know. Game Boy came out in 1990, so. I remember that much.
Well, you can play Tetrisonic.
Yeah.
Definitely going back some years. It's 30 years for me.
Yeah.
Getting old. I'm saying that, and he's older than me, so that's why he like knows all this other stuff, and he can remember the 90s.
Well, it's almost like preaching to the converted at this point, isn't it? Us discussing things that we might not know, because we pretty much have the same kind of history in terms of nerdiness. For the most part, similar kind of bands, similar kind of consoles and games, and both getting into D&D.
We live together. I mean, that says it all.
Yeah.
I know it might kind of sound odd. I'm interviewing my housemate, but it's like,
yeah. I mean, we have a lot of projects on the go anyway.
Yeah, we work together in a lot of sense, and I think it'd be kind of good. That's what I said. It'd be kind of good for everyone out there, because I do post this on our Crit Takers channel.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of good for everyone out there to kind of get a little bit to know without kind of critical roles in between the sheets kind of thing, without Brian W. Foster making us fancy cocktails and us talking about our traumatizing childhoods that we don't really want to remember.
No, that's not why you play D&D. You play D&D to do the complete opposite of that.
Make up another completely traumatizing childhood about someone and why they have to go on an adventure, which doesn't make, a lot of it just doesn't make sense. Why does not every single one does. Not every D&D player has a traumatizing backstory to their character.
No, sometimes you shapeshift into a cat and get lost for 6 months.
Just your character's backstory.
And lose your memory because you can't
I think I saw something. It was like a meme the other day, and it was posting about why are rogues always have like this traumatizing backstory. If they're meant to be this go against it all rebellious kind of type, wouldn't their parents still be alive and be like, no, I'm doing this because my parents don't want me to do this kind of thing? And it would be the bard who would be the insecure one, because they can hide behind all the jokes and the music and everything, which that makes sense, but you're not going to get that. It's rogues. The rogues, they have to be as edgy edgy as they can, king of the edge lords.
Yeah, they got to be black metal fans. They've got to. That's how it works. They live in forests, don't they, and worship permafrost and.
Oh, now we're just going on to like druids and the wannabe druids, rangers.
Yeah, wannabe druids. That's them, all right, isn't it?
Let's kind of dig back down to D&D. What would you say is like the worst race or class in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition at the minute?
Probably half elf. Because it's just so pointless. Like,
would you throw half orc in that as well, or would you kind of?
No, because I feel like half orc is kind of like, because elves are basically just humans with pointy ears. Like, without cutting any losses, like they're very very similar looking. They don't really have that much physically different to them. Orcs are obviously green and very ugly looking.
That's one of the
half orc is kind of like lime mint green.
Well, no, that's one of the best things about kind of it. Like some of the pictures, if you like flip through like the a player's handbook, like the main it actually used for half orc is a gray half orc, and so you can like change the color of them to like specific seas and.
Yeah,
So I just created working on some stuff today, and the half orc I created today was a light brown colored.
Yeah.
So I'm going because I said I played Warcraft and World of Warcraft, and the original Call of the Orcs in that game, they were light brown colored.
Yeah, yeah.
And due to fell magic, basically warlocks, they became green.
Well, there you go.
But
yeah, that's So to me, half elves just feel like I don't know. It just seems like. Because it just seems like there would be so little of them in the world to necessitate an entire race. Because, I don't know how this works genetically. I would kind of assume that it wouldn't be able to have kids because they're completely genetically different. But it's fantasy world. There's dragons. There's there's witches. There's warlocks.
Yeah, I will take Dragonborn every.
So yeah, there is that little bit of a genetics doesn't have to make sense, but. To me, it seems like such a bizarre cross. It's just so boring. It's slightly human with pointy ear, half slight human. It's just why? Just go with, why if you're gonna have a half race, why not have something else that's a half race? It's things like furbolgs and.
Yeah, you got furbolgs, which are I think bovine kind of creatures without the massive horns.
Yeah, so you have those kind of slightly more creaturey-esque. I think. It makes more sense to me. And being half-elf doesn't really give you anything particularly great. You still have that you have the half-human do-it-all side, and you have a slightly more magical side to you. But you don't get all the good magic stuff, and you don't get any of the good, all-roundness that you do as a human. You're kind of just sort of left with a bit of a meh kind of character.
They're incredibly meh kind of character.
Yeah, it all depends what everyone can play a broken character. You can re-roll your stats, through item changes and, however you choose to level yourself up. You could start off with absolute garbage in one stat and just spend all your levels, your ability score, modifiers and improvements and just make it much, much better. You don't have to follow the character traits. But then, what's the point in playing races and characters if you're not going to do that anyway? So you might as well pick something that's going to have some sort of benefit as a race in the game. Stick with a basic elf, of some description. Even elves have different sub races which modify their stats drastically. So just don't pick half elf.
What would you say the worst class to play is then? Or if you want to take it a step further, which is subclass as well, if you want to take it that step further, because
to be honest, this is from personal experience. Everyone likes playing a rogue at some point because it's a lot of fun. But I thought, on paper, it sounds much, much better. This arcane trickster of being a rogue. It's so boring. To me, it sounded great because you get you can use mage hand as a cantrip, and you can unlock picks. You can use mage hand to do all this cool stealthy stuff. But in pretty much every D&D campaign, you never get to do this stuff. Because apart from if you're playing with new starters who kind of want to do sneaky things, most campaigns, you're in big open spaces. You're in castles. You're literally dungeon crawling. There's no real reason to use lockpicks for anything. If you're steaming some kind of enemy base, you're not going to worry about fiddling around with a lock. You're going to blow the bloody doors off. So to have these abilities as a rogue that's let you do essentially lock picking from a distance as a real awesome new feature is really pretty lackluster. And then you get spell slots on top of it, which are 4 levels behind. I can't remember which is it. Wizard it takes from? I can't remember now. Yeah, whichever skill tree, whichever spell tree it takes from. It's you ended up when you're level 15, you're getting 4th level spells, so you can't even get anything good out of it. You get sort of a moderately good hit with magic missile or something. You have all these so it's kind of you've just that kind of ruined rogues for me for a bit. You still get to do your sneak attack, but if you developed your character back up the other way again, you would have had a much, much better time being a rogue.
Assassin or thief rogue, yeah.
Yeah.
Some the other ones, some of the other Gloomstalker rogues, which are just
There's always there's always going to be new subclasses and stuff. But that one to me is just bizarre. It sounded so much more fun than it was. It's kind of it hasn't got enough things to make it good. Too much crossovers, you know.
That's always kind of like the way. That's kind of one thing. Like, I guess that's kind of one thing about D&D sometimes is you can literally just throw your character to the winds and you're like, no, I'm done with this character.
Exactly.
And it's like, no, I'm going to reroll. I have this new rerolled character here. It's just like, you rolled that out of sight of the DM, didn't you? It's like, yes.
That's it. That's what it's all about.
Always what it's all about.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Well, I know what to do. So, I have here on this little sheet of paper 10 little questions I came up with the other week. And if anyone's like, because I already explained this to him, but I'll explain it to all of you, kind of thing. So if anyone's ever watched like Inside the Actors Studio, James Lipton, and at the end he would always like hit the celebrities with like these 10 quick questions, and it's just like a quick, just on the moment, what would you do kind of thing, not too much thought. And I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it, because some of them you're like, well, okay, what about this? But these are then questions that are very all nerd based, around several different areas of nerd and geeky culture, kind of stuff. And
do I need to give detailed answers or just?
No, you don't have to. I mean, I'll leave that up to your discretion.
Sure.
So number one, if you could be any other race than human, what would you be?
Is it in real life?
Yep. No, real life fantasy doesn't matter. You can be any other race that's been mentioned in any geek fantasy sci-fi trope.
I do like when nature and like organisms come together. So things like cryptids and stuff. I quite like that sort of bizarre crossover. It's always, I don't know why I find it appealing. I don't know, I just like it. So yeah, not necessarily a cryptid, but something in the middle.
Like a dryad or something.
Yeah, dryad, tree folk. Why not?
If you could have superpowers, what superpower would you most like?
As opposed to which one would I want?
Like one, kind of say.
Yeah. Probably flight. It just seems like the most practical. Like I'm not like a. Oh, he knows me well enough. Like I'm just a very practical person. Like I really am. So when it comes to superpowers, I would pick flight because it would just be like I could go anywhere I want. I wouldn't have to walk. Things like super strength, you just end up causing your problems. Yeah. Invisibility would just be a nightmare because you don't know whether it affects you or just your clothes. Would I have to walk around naked when I'm invisible? You know, would it turn off and on by accident sometimes? You know, it's too many problems. Flight it is.
If you could be a spellcaster, so like a wizard, sorcerer, bard, and D&D situations, warlock, what kind would you want to be?
Ooh.
You can even go like far in fantasy or sci-fi kind of so-called spellcasters and.
Well, like a Jedi. Well, no, I definitely wouldn't want to be a Jedi. But
that might.
No, I think. No, to be honest, I would probably keep it simple and just be wizard or sorcerer, because. Let's go with sorcerer, so I'm not tying myself into Harry Potter.
So you kind of needed an answer to this question already. Jedi or Sith?
Oh, I was about to say, like, what? Which Slytherin? Which Harry Potter house are you in? Like,
Jedi or Sith?
Oh, Sith, any day of the week.
That's the way to go. Fuck peace, go for passion.
No, fuck terrorism, that's what I'm saying.
Which superhero would you like to be the sidekick of?
Oh, Deadpool.
Deadpool sidekick.
Every 24/7 party, wouldn't it? With Deadpool. Absolutely.
Marvel or DC?
Neither.
Neither.
I wouldn't pick one over the other.
Fair enough. If you had access to a time travel machine, what year would you visit first?
I would go back. What I'd want to do is go back to where we live, Bury St Edmunds, like the year our Abbey was finished, because it baffles me so to this day how big that place was.
Yeah.
Like what's left of it is like an archway, like two archways, which are literally just the gates into it, and they're pretty big. And we've got the cathedral, which was basically just which is our now cathedral, which is still considerably big. That was just like a side room. And this Abbey was like, I mean, if anyone's interested, you have to look it up. But this thing was ginormous, right? And it's like a pilgrimage site. Hey, cat.
Yep, Pippin's come down to join us.
Yeah.
He's not. I don't think he's going to get on one of the cameras today, though. Like he did last week.
Yeah. Yeah, this place. Yeah, this like, and this like huge abbey, like literally in the middle of nowhere, was just kind of built.
You can just see its paws. I got the
table. Yeah, it was just it's baffling just how big this place was. I would love to just go see it, like as it was, new, like a recent building. Because it doesn't make any sense to me, like how something like that could have been built with no modern equiment. And then it took hundreds of years to make,
and then subsequently destroyed and left in the rubble that it is now.
Yeah.
But they're like literally, if you ever come to Barry Snedman's, which nice tourist place when you're actually able to leave whatever homestead you're stuck in at the minute. Nice little place. You go to the Abbey Gardens, especially in like the summertime when all the flowers are bloomed out. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to come down to, and you just see like where the ruins are. They're like literally just like in the ground, like little tiny bits of ruin of this Abbey left over. I fucking nearly destroyed my shoulder on one of them playing fucking in an old water fight fucking years ago.
Yeah.
It's all grass growing out there, and I just went down this little bit of hill up there, slid on the grass because it was wet, and just bashed my shoulder into one of the ruins. Fucking that was a fucking fun thing to have at the age of 17.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, right. So that's where I'd go. I would stay local. That or JFK. Next question.
What fantasy/medieval profession would you prefer to do? Like, there's so many different kind of ones. There's so many different things you can answer. Like, you'd be like blacksmith, king.
I would like to be a medieval king. Please. Next question.
I'm going to pop you. I'm going to say you're a French medieval king who probably got eaten by his fucking subject.
Yeah.
Revolted on by this.
Norman the Conqueror. That's me.
On a space or starship, whichever kind of way you would prefer, what would your job be?
King.
Spaceship. On a spaceship.
Yeah.
Pilot, engineer, gunner, fighter.
On my ship, I am the... No.
I knew this was a pretty good idea.
Everyone's just like... It's like, they come up to Captain, that's King, Captain to you.
Your last name would be Captain?
Yeah. Last name's Captain, first name's King, yeah.
I have like some old Archer jokes now flushing through my head. Yeah. It's like, my name's Butler. The Butler. Yes.
Butler the Butler. I don't know. See, I'm not big on like combat-y type stuff, so I don't think I would be like, I know the perfect job, navigator.
You were back on the freaking pirate night a couple years.
Yeah, what a great job I did.
All right, last question. This one's probably like the most like soul. This one just reveals. I probably already know which one this is going to be. One day you wake up in a different world/universe. Which one would you like to be waking up into?
Two that I would probably go to would either be, I mean, Middle Earth would just be amazing, just because we all know so much about it because it's such a grand scoping thing and so much history involved. So that would definitely be one. I think probably Hyrule would be another one because it's very similar, like similar kind of vibes. I guess I just like medieval like style things. That or like go to bloody Elder Scrolls territory. That would be pretty sweet. Go live in Skyrim. Yeah, it's a bit frosty, but
it is one of those kind of sets of games that are just coming out with it keeps coming out with expansions. As well, like World of Warcraft just keeps adding on more to it. No, we're not going to create another full game just for that. No, we're just going to create expansion, which
it's just mods. It's just mods.
But yeah, that's the one thing with Skyrim. It's mods over Warcraft. It's like, well, okay.
They've kept Warcraft alive. Skyrim has somehow kept itself alive by re-releasing itself on every console. Like it's literally 10 years old this year. And it's still coming out. It came out for the Switch. I don't know if it's out for the PS5 and Xbox One S and X yet, but I'm assuming it will be. I mean, it's backwards compatible, but it's not in 4K on there yet. But it's 4K on PC already, so give it some time.
I give it some time, they'll do.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. That's our hour bit, whatever. Fucking kind of flown by and time out. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Somewhere above where my head is right now, to the side, or maybe even over mine and Spink's head, will be subscribe button and a link to another video, which I think I'll probably just link the first video of this thing to it. I wonder how Facebook algorithm shit works. Thank you for stopping by today. Thank you for enjoying a bit of time in our makeshift tavern with random stuff behind us. Things. Please stop by for our next episode next week. And while you're here, why not check out our playlist of our D&D campaign, Secrets of Elridge, where you get to see me baffle my way through being a DM somehow, and everyone either cause chaos or tell Tilly to shut up. Sorry, Tilly.
Apart from that one episode where I was DMing.
And then that one episode where Tilly was DMing.
Oh, yeah.
Right up there, yeah. Anyways, please come back, please like, please subscribe, please ring the bell, do all the jazz, and everything everyone tells you to do all the time on every single video. And until next time.
Bye.
Bye.